Time now for Inside Utah Politics with Lindsay Aerts.
Welcome into IOP Plus today. Thank you for joining us, whether you're finding us on News for Utah Plus, our streaming app, or on YouTube or the internets, wherever you're finding us. We're grateful that you're here. Want to welcome in my panelists today, Taylor Morgan, Leah Murray. Hi, guys.
Hello, Lindsay.
How are you? Tell everyone what you do.
I'm a partner at Morgan May Public Affairs. We're a local consulting, lobbying, political firm.
And I'm a political science professor up at Weber State University.
I love you both for being here today. Thank you. Producer Peter is here too.
Hi,
Producer
everybody.
Peter.
Back from vacation.
Happy vacation. How was it? We
Oh, it
missed
was
you yesterday
wonderful.
around the office.
First time in Texas. It treated me quite well.
I don't think you guys
It
realize.
is like 100 degrees there, though. So.
I don't think you guys realize this place like shuts down without Peter's help around here. So this is a tough day.
I love to hear that. Please keep telling me how important I am.
We have no producers. No one can help us. No, it was great.
Thanks,
I'm glad
folks.
you got some time off. All right, let's dive in, shall we? We've got a lot to talk about today. Want to start with this. Donald Trump Jr. tweeted about Utah's map situation. If you're not following along at home, the legislature was ordered to redraw new maps. They have done that. It goes to court this week. Meanwhile, the Utah Republican Party is trying to overturn all that with an initiative and a referendum. Well, in enters Donald Trump Jr. to the chat, who's basically trying to recruit people both in and out of state to gather signatures for the GOP's dual effort to overturn Proposition 4 and the map that the legislature voted on. And he says, quote, "Rhino judges and liberal groups are trying to steal 2 GOP House seats in Utah. You can stop it." And he posts the link to get paid to gather signatures here in Utah. Leah, let me start with you. What do you make of DJT Jr. entering the map chat here?
Well, I'm not surprised, right? I mean, I think his father, current president of the United States, not running for office, but running midterms. The reason why we're having all these conversations around changing these districts is because the generic congressional ballot looks like it's going to go in the House to the Democrats. So I've got to think, and Taylor, you might disagree with me, but the reason there's all this conversation from the national level about our districts is because President Trump doesn't want to lose in a blowout in the midterm. But a little bit, so let me just kind of talk about it from Utah's point of view. Lindsay, I get tired of every political conversation being a national political conversation. So I would prefer that we have conversations around what our map should be and what it looks like and what our judges are doing and what our, right? We should argue about this here inside of our state and not, I think, have outside influencers trying to play a role.
Taylor, the Republican Party here in Utah often complains about out-of-state money coming in to fund Democratic initiatives. They don't like direct democracy. Is this Donald Trump Jr. doing the same thing, or is this okay?
Well, I think it's easy to criticize different methods of participation or use them, whatever is effective or convenient at the time for one's own strategy. We know that the Utah Republican Party has been on President Trump's radar. Recently, President Trump endorsed Rob Axson, the current chair of the Utah Republican Party, in the election for chair at their last convention. So the party is on the radar of the president and, of course, Donald Trump Jr. What did you call him?
DJT Jr.?
Okay.
DJT Jr.
Is that not right?
Love it.
That was probably a little
I can't keep track of all the
colloquial.
acronyms in the administration. There's quite a few.
Well,
of them.
Donald
But
J. Trump Jr.
Yeah,
is
I
what
guess
that
my
stands
point is
for, yeah.
that this isn't a surprise. I think this is to be expected. I think ultimately this does come down to a national fight over, I would argue, 1 seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, not 2. I'm not sure that DJT Jr. had his facts straight. Also, Rhino judges, I don't know that this judge is a Republican. I don't even know what the voter registration is. Not sure what that has to do with it. But
Well, that's the talking point from the Republicans when they don't like a decision, right? Is that the judges are activists and liberal and rhinos and all that.
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. More of the same there. But I maybe will push back a little bit, Lindsay, on your point about out-of-state money or the national conversation. I think we have to be very honest with where this all started. This all started with the Better Boundaries Initiative, Prop 4 in 2018. This initiative was funded primarily by out-of-state money, by national progressive organization dollars. That is where essentially the support for this initiative came from. It did pass on the ballot, though. The money for the litigation for the lawsuit pursued by the plaintiffs, League of Women Voters, Mormon Women for Ethical Government, the money to support that lawsuit is all being funneled through Better Boundaries, but it is coming from those same liberal national organizations, right? And let's be really clear. The plaintiffs only sued over the congressional maps. They did not sue over the legislative or school board maps because the goal and the intent of the lawsuit is to affect electing a Democrat to Congress. That's what they want. That's their goal. That has been the goal from day one. It is a national fight taking place on the ground here.
Leah, is that true? I mean, you say you want money local, but the Democrats, to Taylor's point, it all started with Better Boundaries, who got funded by national groups.
Yeah, and Taylor's been complaining about that for like 3 weeks, right?
Absolutely.
So the point is, I want to say, I would prefer we don't have national money on either the left or the right. If we're going to have a conversation about how the state legislature makes decisions about districts, I would prefer it be up and down the ballot, not just Congress. I would want it to be all the way down to our school board elections as well. So a little bit, let's just make it local and have a real conversation. So Taylor, I'm going to say no to the big money for the Democratic side, and I'm going to say no, please don't get involved, Donald J. Trump Jr.
DJTJR.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful.
If only it could be so. I agree. You're not wrong, Leah. I think, unfortunately, this is a national battle. This is about a very slim majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, and in the past, we have seen the DCCC spend millions of dollars here in Utah to elect Democrats in Utah. Jim Matheson, Doug Owens, Ben McAdams. The red to blue campaign is always a big thing here in Utah, and I think that is also very much back on the table now with Map C potentially for Ben McAdams.
I wonder if the RNC, though, didn't plan to spend any money in Utah, didn't think there was going to actually be a battle in this, historically deep red state. Now they're having to fork over some things. Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, whatever it takes to keep that majority in the U.S. House, as Leah mentioned, in a critical midterm year, we should not at all be surprised that the administration is watching closely and getting involved.
So let's just kind of give our viewers a little update on where things stand with the MAP lawsuit. So this week on Thursday and Friday, the maps go to court. So the legislature passed Map C. It was one of like 6 maps that they could have voted on. They passed it. Now it goes to a judge for her to hear arguments from both sides on Thursday and Friday this week, and then she will make a determination by November 10th, which is a deadline the lieutenant governor said it is the drop-dead deadline for getting new congressional boundaries before the midterms next year, because candidates file in early January. She will make sure that Map C has passed Proposition 4, the anti-gerrymandering criteria that was laid out and had to be followed after a previous lawsuit. You guys, then you enter in the
I'm already
GOP's.
lost. I have no idea what's happening.
Then you enter in the GOP's initiative and referendum, and we don't even know what map is going to come out of this thing. I mean, does the judge's ruling even matter here if the GOP referendum or initiative passes, and then there's a lawsuit over that too?
Nobody knows.
And I just, again, so sorry to say this, but all the more reason why maybe we shouldn't have initiatives, right? So all of this noise, this small d democracy noise in this whole conversation leading to instability over the next year in terms of what our districts are going to look like, what campaigns should be running. It's just all a real problem.
I'm just fascinated by this case because in addition to this, the judge has already ruled that the current maps we're sitting on violated Prop 4 and legislature wasn't allowed to overturn that. So now we're like, can we even use these maps?
Nobody knows.
Let's go
Nobody
back
knows.
to 2002 maps, right? Let's just go
no,
back
2011,
Yeah.
but those are
Yeah.
malapportioned.
This is really hard. It's creating
Right.
so much uncertainty, in politics here in Utah. Now, again, the legislative maps, the school board maps, those are not affected, but the congressional maps, no one really knows for sure what is going to happen with those maps. We have candidates right now that are trying to decide whether or not they're going to run. We have new candidates organizing finance committees and kitchen cabinets. It's really difficult for everyone, for voters, for candidates, for the process when we have so much uncertainty so close to the beginning of the process.
I talked to a friend over the weekend and I was like, do you know what's going on with, Utah's redistricting battle? And he goes, there's a battle. And I was just like, what would it be like to not have to pay attention to all of this? It'd be amazing. All right, let's move on to other topics, shall we? Okay, another issue that's kind of bubbling up here in Utah is an issue in Utah County. The county clerk there, approved, the counties run the municipal election ballots, right? Because the counties have the resources to do that. Well, there's some inaccurate information on the ballot, the ballot instructions in Utah County's municipal elections. So it says that you're required to put the last four of your ID on there, or your ballot may not count. But that is not true. The legislature did make that requirement, but it's not implemented technically fully until 2029. So in 2026, next year, they will start collecting that information, but your signature will be valid to make your ballot count as long as it matches what's on file until 2029. Our station talked to the Utah County Clerk, Aaron Davidson, and he kind of said that it was more prudent for taxpayers not to have to reprint these ballots. They do like a bulk order, right? So they ordered them for the primary and the general election. And because they changed this requirement between the primary and the general, the ballot instructions that went out were inaccurate. So saving taxpayers money or getting the ballot information, the instructions accurate?
So I am so sorry. So the county clerk said, I sent out the wrong information, acknowledges that he sends out the wrong information because he's got the rules for the game being from 2029. Anyone who plays sports, that's ridiculous. You don't prepare the game for next year's rules. You're playing by this year's rules. And then when he acknowledges that it's wrong, he basically says, well, to correct my mistake, it's on the taxpayers. It would be too expensive for them. No, a little bit. Right? Don't want to email. You don't want to send a message to everyone in your county that you made a huge mistake, right? The elections are the backbone of this republic. And when people do not treat them, with the reverence and the respect that they need to have, I get very frustrated.
Yeah. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Aaron Davidson is a clown. He is the worst election official in the United States. He is an embarrassment to the state of Utah. And this is just the latest incident of him trying to discourage voter participation in elections in Utah County. He has done many things like this in the past. Recently, in the last election cycle, he removed the language saying postage paid from return envelopes or by-mail ballots. He essentially tried to tell voters they had to pay their own postage, put their own stamp on their by-mail return envelope in order to participate by mail. Aaron Davidson is a huge problem here in the state of Utah, and he needs to be replaced in the election. If he can be impeached somehow by the county commission or the Utah legislature, that should happen right away. It is not acceptable for an election official to try to intentionally discourage participation in elections by creating confusion among voters.
Okay, so, you went hard at Aaron Davidson. You went real hard at him, which is your opinion. That's fine. But he's not saying, I'm trying to confuse voters. I'm trying to do this deliberately. Now, he
of course
did.
He's not.
I know. He did put this information forward knowing that it was inaccurate, but didn't want to spend the money on creating a new pamphlet. So you're saying that information alone
doesn't hold up. It reminds me of the claim he made when he sent out the instructions to voters in the 2024 election, telling them they had to put postage on their by-mail return envelopes, even though the postage had already been paid by the Utah County Commission. That had been paid. It was done. It was in the budget. And yet he ignored that. He knew that full well. And he still tried to confuse voters by telling them they had to pay the postage in order to vote by mail. This is what Aaron Davidson does, and someone has to hold him accountable for it.
Yeah, someone's got to call him on it. So we could argue maybe it's just a mistake every time, but it's like every year that we are doing an election, every primary that we are doing an election, there's some kind of conversation out of Utah County about some miscarriage of how elections are supposed to run. So Taylor and I and Lindsay, we've all talked about this time and time again, and a little bit it's like either someone's got to hold him accountable. He's got to stop behaving this way.
He's on the record testifying in legislative committees, exactly about these issues and what he doesn't like about voting by mail.
No, that's fair. He
He has
told
been
me-
on the record discouraging vote by mail, right? So this is no mistake. This isn't an accident. But even if it were an accident, he would still be the worst county clerk in the country.
Yeah, and how many accidents until we decide?
But what
Right,
makes it
right.
worse and egregious and impeachable, I think, is that it is intentional and it happens over and over.
We will leave it there. Thanks for your thoughts on that one. Okay, I want to move to another topic. Taylor went hard on
Yeah.
that one.
Come at me, Aaron. Come on. Let's just get this done. Let's do it.
He does, if you tag him on Twitter, he will respond to you. He often responds to stories that I write. So just have some fun. Okay, so also want to talk about this. Over the weekend, there were No Kings rallies across the country. No Kings protest rallies, you can kind of call them either one. They drew millions of people nationwide, basically protesting the Donald Trump administration and what they say is an administration turning into a dictatorship or a king, right? We don't have kings in the United States. So one of our local lawmakers tweeted something that I think brings up a good conversation. He says, quote, "A sad reality, most kids coming out of public schools and higher ed really think that participating in the process of government means protesting. Protesting is the least effective method of producing change." And that is the conversation I kind of want to have today. Is he right? Go.
So I want to say it depends on the vantage point of the protester. So if you were a black person in Alabama in the 1950s, you would have no other avenue to you to affect political change. Right, Lindsay? So that, like, in that situation, it was the most effective way.
Well, and we have the civil rights movement because
as a
of
result.
some of the
Right.
protests, right?
But I would argue if you have the right to vote and if you have the ability to contact an elected official who has some accountability to you, that is probably a more effective way to make change, right? So, but I guess what I want to say is the country is built on mass movements and protests from people whose vantage point in the political system was one of not having a voice. So they can be the most effective because they're the only way you can do it. But I think generally, in answer to your question, it's the loudest way, but it's the least effective in terms of getting legislators to move the needle on a particular policy issue.
So it sort of depends on the protest, is what you're saying.
And I would argue
Yeah.
that the quote-unquote No Kings protest, what happened on Saturday, was the least effective form of a protest. I don't even know what they were protesting about. They're protesting about national issues or
Just
simply
the Trump
against Donald
administration.
Trump in general.
Yeah.
Using the clever marketing of no kings when clearly that's not the problem. I mean, no dictators might be more accurate, but maybe that's a syllable too long. It's not as cute on the marketing
Snappy.
front.
We need it snappy.
No, they're not protesting in an effective way at all. They're protesting on a Saturday, not during the legislative session. No one is paying attention to what they're doing. It's just a bunch of liberals getting together yelling about how much they hate Donald Trump. Guess what? Nobody cares.
Leah, do you want to respond to that or just let him kind of rant?
I feel
You're being nice, Leah. I'm kind of coming in hot today.
he
I
is.
feel, and so I will just say this, there is some frustration in this country about the lack of horizontal accountability. And we have talked about this, right? So people have argued Congress is pretty much letting the president do whatever he wants. Right now, he's tearing down the east wing of the White House to put in a ballroom. I mean, to a certain extent, when you are frustrated by people not asking questions, not holding a president accountable, and your Congress members are just not doing what you think is the right job, and you've got a president sending the National Guard into cities across this country, that frustration needs to go somewhere. And a little bit, Taylor, I'd rather have it go into a peaceful protest on a Saturday, right, than other directions it could go.
Yeah.
So a little bit, I think, maybe, to be fair, it's not about, in that point, it's not effective on a legislative policy issue, but it was probably very effective to vent emotions about feeling like Donald Trump is kind of getting away with anything he wants to do. No one is questioning him, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
you know?
so for that exact reason, Leah, I think it's even worse, right?
Okay.
Because all of this energy and all of the frustration, I get it, I hear it, it's real, right? And I'm not saying that it's insignificant. It is significant. The problem with these kinds of protests is they do allow people to vent. And they make people feel like they're actually accomplishing something and doing something, and they're not. Instead, if they directed that energy and the time and resources into organizing, into elections, into getting involved, into contacting their legislators or their members of Congress, I do personally believe they could have an impact. Now, in fairness, I am a white man of the predominant faith in Utah. I am fully within my square of privilege, right? I fully acknowledge that. I know that there are others out there who do feel like their voices aren't being heard, and that's legitimate. But at the same time, I have seen time and time again individuals like that from all different backgrounds, with all different perspectives. I have seen them have a real impact by participating in the real process in an effective way. And so that's where I'm coming from.
So is the days of protesting over then, Leah? I mean, if the protests are just, venting frustration but not creating change.
Right, but I'm also not sure I agree with Taylor, and I do apologize.
No, don't apologize for not agreeing.
If it is the case that the 20 to 30 to 40 phone calls that Blake Moore gets on the daily, right? So people are calling him, like Taylor Morgan is asking them to do, to complain about things. If those people feel like they're howling at the moon by themselves, they might actually see a protest on Saturday that maybe they didn't attend, but they think, oh, I'm not the only one who's frustrated, right? So actually having that
The visual.
that protest energy might allow people to across the board kind of go, no, I am frustrated, and I don't have the energy to go out on a Saturday, but I can call on Monday, right? Right. So it might mobilize other people to become a part of this in a way that Taylor might see be more effective.
Interesting. Okay, appreciate that discussion. I have about 90 seconds left, but I just want you guys to weigh in real quick. Nobody likes taxes going up, right? But there is a potential. Sometimes it's a necessary evil.
Democrats usually do, right?
Sometimes it is a necessary evil sometimes for taxes to be raised so we can fund the essential services of government. Salt Lake City is proposing nearly a 20% property tax hike. A lot of people up in arms in this already. Is this okay? Do we need this? Is it too high?
It's not okay. Jenny Wilson, Democratic Mayor of Salt Lake County, is proposing a 20% tax increase. I'm sorry, this is not acceptable. And all the justification about trying to pay county employees more, to try to hire more staff in the district attorney's and the county attorney's office, I don't think any of this is necessary. We know that Salt Lake County just moved into some very expensive, fancy new offices there at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon. How much did that cost taxpayers? I think the county needs to take a harder look at the budget, what they can cut, rather than raising taxes another 20% at a time that is really difficult for Utahns just to make ends meet.
Leah?
Yeah, I'm just going to say I don't live in Salt Lake County, so it doesn't affect me in the way that it might actually affect
But don't worry,
Taylor.
your time is coming.
But the answer, 20% seems huge. I think usually what happens is people don't want to ever increase taxes. So you don't get the incremental normal tax increases that probably you should see every year, right? Like, so you'd want like 20 years of a 1% increase every year. But again, I don't think elected officials generally operate that way. So what happens is by the time you are squaring up to the fact of what you have to pay for, you get these huge jumps, and then there'll be nothing for a while, and then another huge jump.
Yeah, it'll be interesting
And
to
this
see.
isn't the first time that Jenny Wilson has proposed a significant tax increase. What I'm really watching for is how the bipartisan Salt Lake County Council responds to her proposal. In the past, we have seen the council come together in a bipartisan way, Republicans and Democrats, in support of some of her tax increases. Will that happen again? I'm watching for that.
And there will be public input throughout this process, right? You have the truth in taxation process that will happen over the next couple of months. I think there's a hearing December 9th before this budget is sorted out. So you've got time to make your voice known if you're opposed to this as well.
Put it on the ballot. The last time Salt Lake County wanted to tax and spend millions and millions of dollars, the voters defeated it on the ballot. I can't imagine Salt Lake County voters would support this.
Interesting. Okay, we shall see how it all shakes out. Taylor Morgan, Leah Murray, thanks for your insights today. Appreciate the lively discussion.
I had a spicy chicken
You
sandwich.
were spicy today.
So
You were coming in hot.
I had the spice in me. Couldn't help it.
I like it. I like it. I need people to come in hot. All right, Producer Peter, we didn't hear from you much today because we all told the truth today. You didn't have to fact check any of us.
No,
but we
you were all on
appreciate
it. I didn't want to interrupt the flow we had going. It's a good day. I'll have a spicy chicken sandwich next time.
Let's go. All right, stay with us next time, and we will see you for the next episode.